This is a tutorial on filling out the real estate sales contract. So we'll begin with line 2, and you'll simply input the date that the contract is being drafted. After that, we have the buyer's name. We have just one name for the sample. However, you can add as many buyers as needed. Same with the seller. We have one name stated here, but you can add additional seller names as needed. Then line 9 is going to be the street address of the property being sold, followed by the city, then the zip, and then the county. And then after that, the assessor parcel number, which is assigned to each property by their respective county, and you can find that number on your tax bill. Then we have the numerical value for the purchase price entered here on line 12. On line 13, we have a checkbox. In the case that the home is being sold in an as-is condition, meaning that the seller is not making any additional repairs or any changes, you'll go ahead and check that box. Then line 14, the close of escrow, and we just put in an arbitrary date for the sample. You can just choose a date off the calendar. The typical escrow period is 30 days. The second most common escrow period is 45 days. And if both parties are willing and able to close before the date indicated on the contract, then you can close early as well. Line 15, we have standard verbiage that keys will be delivered to the buyer by 6 p.m. on the date that the deeds recorded with the county. So under financing terms, we start with the earnest money deposit of $5,000. This is a sample number based off our sample purchase price. The typical earnest money deposit is between 1% and 3% of the sales price. However, this number can be negotiated and agreed upon. Any figure can be agreed upon by both parties. If this is a cash purchase, then you'll click the all cash offer box. If it's a financing purchase and the buyer is obtaining a loan, then you can click the financing offer. For contingencies, we have a section here that gives the buyer a contingency period to conduct an inspection or obtain a mortgage, or even make sure that the appraisal for their mortgage comes in at the sales price. We have the standard 17 days entered here. So this time period gives the buyer a way to cancel if one of these contingencies isn't met. But once the 17 days or the amount of days indicated on line 29 elapses, then the buyer's then committed and the contingency period's gone. So we have a section designation of costs and fees, and this is the closing costs. So in California, transactions are required to have a natural hazard disclosure report, and typically the seller pays for that report, so we just check that seller box as an example. And for the seller so it's customary that a seller pays for a city or county transfer tax. That's customary in most places. There are exceptions, and this is like all these fees here. This is all negotiable between both parties. We're just putting what's typically found on the majority of transactions, and typically, especially in Southern California, the seller pays this fee. It's also very typical that the buyer and seller split the escrow fee or each pay their own, so we have both boxes checked, but again, you can modify it as per the agreement between parties. Then we have the seller paying for the owner's title policy. That's title insurance. If there's an HOA involved, we have seller paying for HOA fees. There's usually fees associated with transferring that the HOA is going to require, and escrow is going to be working with the HOA. Then we have the seller paying for a termite inspection. And here, just as a sample, we have the seller paying for termite repairs in the case that the termite inspection shows that there is termite damage or work needed. Then you have check boxes here for one of the parties to pay for those repairs. And if there's something that's not already mentioned above, and one of the parties is going to pay it while in escrow, you can go ahead and check the box of whichever party is paying it and enter the item right here in these fields. So we have additional provisions here that you can read through. They're pretty simple. They're put in place to give basic protections to both parties in this contract. Then we have a blank paragraph here of additional terms or considerations. So if something else hasn't been mentioned and it's part of the sale, then you can go ahead and just include those items here as needed. And then both parties are going to sign and initial these pages, and you are done. That is the real estate sales contract.